A lot of people that's been interviewed in the past.
Mm.
Do you want to talk about any of them briefly?
You mean the people that you've interviewed before, but in the earlier bases?
Yeah.
Sure. I'd like to address anything that's come up for me.
In other words, I'm going to leave you to mention any names. If you want to do this, it's entirely up to you.
Okay. Yeah. That points me in a negative light. Okay, so we can go back to really the beginning of 2010. Now, I'd spoken to Michael. I'd spoken to James Casbolt before then. I'd spoken to him really. Him and I were corresponding in 2008.
When did you first meet? Were you part of the same program?
Right. I knew James Casbolt from when we were very, very young. My first real flash memories of him were around when I was 5 or 6 years old in Brighton. And I think I've talked about the thing that happened there. But him and I remember him playing video games with him then at a specific swimming pool in Brighton Hove, actually. So yeah, I mean, there's bits and pieces of memories there, but as an adult.
Before we get that far,
yes.
Are there any other children involved in this collection of children that you're part of?
Yeah, yes, there were. None that I can say, this person's this person. No, there were, majority of them were English, but there were a couple of American girls there too.
How many?
How many? Two that stand out to me.
2 American girls?
Yeah, one I know, one nobody else, none of the audience will know.
But they're still alive?
Yeah, yes.
Which you mentioned that a lot of them had died since then.
Well, in this is a separate group than the Brighton one, but in a separate one. I think what happened is when we were being used they were testing out how far they could push the trauma. Because when certain sex rituals are done to a child under 5 years old, when a child is raped, and when a male child is raped, what happens is it releases the coiled serpent, or the kundalini, which is at the base of the spine, and it is opened up before it should be. Everybody has the kundalini raise at some point, and maybe not everybody, but right. So it means coiled serpent, and it sits at the base of the spine. And when the serpent uncoils, it goes up the spinal column like this, and comes to the brain stem there, and you come to an enlightened understanding. So you become an enlightened one, or the Illuminati, the illuminated one. When a male child is raped before the age of 5, it goes through something called the vasovagal shock. Now, when it's penetrated, the coiled snake uncoils very, very quickly, all the way up the spine to the top of the spine, and explodes here in the brainstem, which then shatters the consciousness into many, many pieces, like smashing a mirror. Then,
so all this all this kind of abuse that's been happening with many politicians, allegedly, a lot of stuff coming forward now about British political parties, British media, British thing and all that. There's a huge amount of stuff coming out now. Is that all part of that? You
cannot be in a high-level person in the Illuminati unless you have been illuminated by the Key of Solomon. Now they call this rape, rape like that to a young boy the Key of Solomon. And when that happens, when it bursts up here, it shatters. Then you are able to program these different altars. But not only that, when it shatters there, you have a photographic memory. Somehow it raises the IQ. It does a number of different things. Everybody who is in a position of power now has had the Key of Solomon used on them, so they have been raped in that way.
Which means that the whole structure of power in Britain,
yes,
the UK, probably Ireland, because of the recent terrible things about 900 children, 800 children ritually massacred in Ireland, that means the whole power elite has been
Yes. Yes. And they won't have you in the power elite unless it's been done to you. Just off sidetrack, Barack Obama, his middle name is Hussein. Well, Saddam Hussein was a major handler and programmer. He was such a high programmer that he would program some of our very high power position people through world leaders. And Saddam Hussein programmed Barack Obama with that way. That's why he has.
Do you know any others he programmed?
No, but I know that him and Hillary Clinton worked as a duo to do that. No, I don't. I mean,
Hillary Clinton.
Bill Clinton was programmed by Saddam Hussein too. All the Rhodes Scholars, all of the Rhodes Scholars have to be illuminated, have to have that done to them.
Why an Arab like Saddam Hussein?
Well, he had technology. He had hold of technology. He had hold of Stargate technology. That's one of the reasons why he was at one point, he was one of the most powerful men on the planet. And the technology that he had was off the charts.
Now, this is very similar to what John Irwin has said in his book, One Step Beyond the 16.
Yes, yeah.
Amongst other things.
Yes, he had that. It's sort of similar to there's a movie called Contact, and that spinning thing there, which is able to shoot you through to different dimensions. So he had something similar to that. There's a few of them around, but he had control of that. He comes from, he's a direct descendant of Genghis Khan, and that bloodline, the Genghis Khan bloodline, who incidentally had the most powerful, he owned the most land of anybody on this planet ever. Even more, I mean, the British Empire was secondary even to Genghis Khan's empire. And whatever...
No, it's something that's been maintained on horseback. That seems to be a pretty big deal.
Right, because in truth they weren't just using horseback. I mean,
what were they using?
They were using interdimensional technology. And Genghis Khan bred with multiple women, so he could continue that bloodline. Which,
is that what Casbolt's doing, by doing all this contact with women, by having some kind of psychic link? There's been discussion that is some kind of thought virus he's instilling in these people.
Yeah.
Whoever's controlling him.
Well, he I think that when the wars on Mars went on, there was 100,000-year war, and a lot of us were involved in this 100,000-year war. And while this was going on,
between who?
Between who? Okay, well, so the basis of it was between the Lyrans, or the Nordics, and the Dracos, because the Dracos are chasing the Nordics around because they want their DNA, because that allows them to maintain the holographic projection of a human being whilst they're here. So the 100,000, this was a long war. Eventually, at the end of it, what happened was that they had to call a ceasefire because so many were killed on either side. But there was a disease that got out, a virus that got out during this war, and a lot of us who were very involved in what was going on, generals, commanders who were up there, contracted this virus.
I mean, it seems as it must have been created.
It was created virus, yeah, and a lot of us contracted this virus, and what this virus was, some of us took it on board, took it and merged it, superimposed it into our own physical body to try and overcome it. And then now a lot of us still have it. I have it in me still now.
What does it do?
It's vampirical. It's sort of like it's like a stereotypical vampire.
So what does that mean? You shapeshift and your teeth go long and you bite people at night?
It means that. Well, yeah, but only somebody who was able to see or sensitive to that would be able to see it. It's not as if I would change now into a monster like that. So if you're sensitive, you can see it.
What is the true shape then?
Of this particular one? Well, from this particular vampirical virus, they tend to look, this vampire sort of thing looks a bit like that old stereotypical vision of Nosferatu. Very, very pale skin, bald head, sort of dark eyes and sharp teeth, like that.
From the original movie?
Yes, like that. Looks sort of like that.
Original silent movies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has the ability. It doesn't have a core here. It doesn't have a central core where it maintains itself. It sort of has an opening here, like a void. So it doesn't maintain its own thing. So it doesn't maintain its own energy force. It has to take from others to maintain its holographic projection. And a number of us were infected by this particular virus that happened there.
Why is that going to be a thing that would cause harm to people? What's the point?
Well, because
of
it
that?
becomes like a parasite, and then it starts to spread, and more and more and more. So it's like a parasitic virus that's on the face of this planet.
So how does it spread? By contact, blood?
Yeah, well, when you start, when you drain somebody else, you sort of, there's never really a drain. When it comes to vampires, they don't just take. There is a exchange. So they will take energy field or blood from another, but then they will exchange it with their own energy. So that's why a lot of the times victims of a vampire will start falling in love with the vampire,
Yeah.
quote unquote vampire, because they will feel the feelings that the vampire feels.
Yeah.
And so they will.
I mean, I have to say that seems very similar to two people that I know, two women I know.
So that it becomes like a bond like you can't even ever explain, an obsessive bond. And then what I think is they're very careful about is, but if you completely drain them, then their personality is wiped, and then they become one of them. So then the void is within them, and then they have to continue to take from others to maintain. So it's a virus. I mean, literally like a virus. For me, what I have come to the conclusion now, what happened with me is I absorbed whatever that energy was, whatever that consciousness was, into myself. And that's why when I was born here, or on paper when I was born here, I had that line go down the center of me, which was red and yellow. So the left side of me is a higher vibrational Syrian being, a blue Syrian being, and the other side of me is whatever this virus is that I've taken. And it's been a constant internal war to try and which one wants to take over the sides, each side of it. So if the Nosferatu type thing takes over, then I become a complete, whatever that does, which is continues with the virus.
Does it happen on full moons and you've got to...
Oh, well, I have extremely weird things happen to me on full moons. Yeah, actually, it happened yesterday.
I mean, I'm being a bit silly.
No. Why wouldn't it? Because when it's a full moon, that's when the energy. I mean, it's a construct. The moon is a construct in and of itself. It's like the Death Star is a construct anyway.
So when you're talking about the moon being a complete artificial construct.
Yeah, and it definitely is. It's hollow and it's an artificial construct. Yeah.
Any other information you know about it?
Well, they're using the moon as a transfer point. To harvest. Yeah. So
it's interesting. John Lear says something like that.
When you're dying here, when you quote unquote die, you are going to a transfer point. And there's actually a machine. There's actually a giant machine up there, which then they do a lot of rituals up there as well, which then wipes.
They?
Who is it? Well, the majority of the moon is now run by the Fourth Reich. But there are,
So are you saying that spoof movie
is actually quite right on?
Yeah.
Yeah. They always like to tell you the truth with a spin of bullshit in the middle, but and then you're sent right back.
It's got enough of an atmosphere for people to walk around with very minimal.
Yeah. Yes. And then huge underground stations and high technology and. So what you've got the Saturn as we have now with the ring around it, projecting out a false reality pockets. False reality. It hits the moon, and the moon is working like an amplifier, which then creates and projects the false reality onto this planet. Right. So we're living an inverted reality here. It's not how it doesn't work.
What do you mean by an inverted reality?
Well, an inverted reality in the sense that you succeed by doing bad. You succeed by fucking over, excuse my language, you succeed by screwing over your fellow man. if you're if that's if you want to go along with that. I don't care if you succeed. I'd rather not succeed and be okay and take care of people I love. So whether or not it's success is not. I'm not interested in that. What I'm trying to do is change the frequency here, so that ceases to exist anymore.
You're talking about the moon.
The moon being an amplifier, yes. The moon being an amplifier, and yes.
Well, it's interesting that they've announced, NASA's announced a contract to go to Mars with Boeing.
Yeah.
They're using a very similar rocket to the Saturn V. So that seems like a load of hooey for a start.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Only
2 solid rocket boosters. I'm being an anorak now, but you're going to launch the kind of weight that you expect to lift. To go to Mars, you'd expect rather more than just a big tin can tank and 2 solid rocket boosters, because that essentially is all the shuttle had.
Yeah. Then they've got the jump rooms in on Sepulveda Boulevard, which is in Los Angeles too. Which is right. I lived on Sepulveda Boulevard at the ages of 5, 6, and 7, and I didn't go to school at that period of time. My parents didn't put me in school, and I spent a lot of time by myself. And there are jump rooms at 999 Sepulveda Boulevard, which was maybe 2 blocks away from where I used to live. And
the nines are significant.
Well, it's just, I mean, as I said, everything is reversal. So, I mean, you have 666, but what really is 666? It's not quite what.
It's the interdimensional gate.
Right, and it's also talking about raw human being. I mean, the carbon atoms, 6 carbon atoms, 6 oxygen atoms, 6, I think.
Oh, right. I didn't explain that.
It's well, the 666 is also it's also explaining to you time. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day. So you have 666 there. It's Old Father time, and what creates time here? Saturn. Saturn is manifesting the false reality of time here. So the big illusion is time.
We have such big people in the past. The land of the giants.
Yes.
Humans.
I'm not sure that they're gone. I just think the holographic projection is not suited for them for us to see them what they really look like. I think they're still here. There's an island where they have all the dinosaurs there already. They're still there.
You're talking about the movies now.
But that's a real place. They have that.
Where is that?
Well, it's an island off the South Pacific, from what I mean. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg is SS. George Lucas is a CIA insider. And
are you saying that the good Jew like George Lucas is he's Jew?
George Lucas isn't. No.
Oh, sorry, I talked of Spielberg. So.
And I'm not saying anything bad about these guys.
But all these things are relative, and really,
absolutely,
the good bad thing is really academic, and really, if you apply those sort of terms, you're going to miss the point.
Absolutely. Yeah. With the dinosaurs on it, well, they're still doing experiments and testing them out. They're testing out what the abilities are, and if they can take certain parts of DNA from these dinosaurs and place them into human beings, what extra attributes.
Just continuing with the stuff that Barry King's father discovered in World War II.
Which was?
A lab with strange-looking humans being used some kind of transgenetics or some kind of...
Right, well, you've got under Dulce, you've got the 7 levels under Dulce, where Nightmare Hall, which I think is the 6th level, where they've just put everything you can possibly imagine together, testing out things. That's not ever going to happen again. This will never ever happen again.
Why?
Trapping souls, because universal law now is not allowing it. It's gone too far.
I get the impression from other sources that what's been going on is so illegal.
It's so illegal. It's being stopped. A lot of these ones out in Arizona and Nevada now have been stopped, and because you've got people souls trapped in machines, where they cannot stop, keep coming back and back again for torturous lifetime after torturous lifetime. And this has been over and over again. And and people, you talk about, well, okay, well then, you want to leave? How are you going to leave here? Kill yourself? You kill yourself, you're not leaving. You're in even more trouble. So we're all now trying to find out how we get out of this prison without walls. What do? We look inside and understand we have to look inside ourselves and understand what's going on. Because really, all of this stuff is just a reflection of what we think about ourselves.
So the 9/11 thing is a mechanism for controlling that.
That was a huge Stargate ritual, and between those two buildings, when that happened, it opened an enormous. It was a Crowley ritual, and it was connected to the Boleskine house other doorway that he didn't bother to close. But the
one in Loughness.
Yeah, he didn't close it. He couldn't close it.
Or did he not close it, or did he couldn't close it?
He couldn't close it. It was too much for him. He couldn't. Dialed in all these lower fourth dimensional beings that are here now.
I didn't want to take part in any of that, so I stood well back.
I mean, because these things are. We're talking about the Goetia demons, the high Goetia demons that were locked away for a long time.
And why are they called the high Goetia demons?
Well, in the 72 Goetia demons are ranked sort of similar to our aristocracy here. They have dukes and princes and kings and like that. And Crowley wanted to release them here, and the 9/11 ritual released a lot of them like that, because they want to create hell on earth. They want to create, well, hell is not the word they use, but they want to create the lower fourth into 3D here.
Yeah.
Because they like that. That's what they like. They like that. They're slowly introducing, so making it more acceptable that pedophilia is okay, more acceptable that heinous crimes are okay.
Yeah, I think this is important, that a lot of real bad guys are given the sympathy thing on TV. And we don't want to push that analogy too far in the present circumstance.
Right, yeah, there's a few names I could say, but I'm not going to say any names because, we don't want to do that.
So there's a lot of basically demonology. What does it really mean? These are other types of dimensional entities?
Yeah.
They've got their own worlds to live in?
They don't. They're just off this frequency. They're in pockets, they're in a pocket just off this frequency. But they were locked down a long time ago because they caused such havoc and mayhem. The dark sorcerers.
Is this what you referred to earlier as going to oblivion, but you can recover?
The void. You mean? Yeah, they were locked in the void. It's in Superman 2, the original one, not the crap remake. You see Jor-El locked in these three particular demons in this thing like this, and they were locked away. Well, that's symbolic of a lot of these Goetia demons being locked down. Now, when you use Goetia magic, each one represents a different thing, maybe for money, maybe for food, maybe for power. So if you know what you're doing, it's necromancy. If you know how to, necromancy is about the summoning and raising of these particular things. You can summon them.
Jimmy Savile's stuff?
Yes, he was actually very, very high up.
Well, he obviously must be because of the clearance he obviously got.
Yeah, very high clearance.
Which is a big alarm bell for the whole echelons again.
Absolutely. But you can summon these, and if you do what you're supposed to do, if you do what they say, and they'll do you favors. And
that's at a cost.
Oh yeah, in the end it's at a cost. Yeah, you're selling your soul. And they'll have you after.
Yeah, and that means short-term gain, long-term loss.
You can even have what seems like long-term. You can have a lifetime gain. But
but after that,
you're always going to lose somebody close to you, because they always want to take something from you that's close to your heart.
What happens to those people who are taken?
Well, they're dealing with going to the underworld, or whatever you want to call that, lower fourth, until they can capture enough energy to re-get into a new body again. They're about staying here. They don't want to go anywhere else or raise vibration. They want to stay here. So they're fighting to get back into a body again and do the same thing again.
Which is why we got all this thing, cyborgs, be able to have machines which last.
Yeah.
Well past the human lifestyle.
Yeah. But there's a way of doing it where you can rebuild the flesh and blood again as well. You don't even have to have cyborgs. You can do it with, especially with the cold-blooded, like the reptilian cold-blooded. It's much easier to build the building blocks of them than it is the mammals.
Well, that's interesting. That one of the things that Casbolt mentioned was the certain people in charge, certain agencies had lived a long, long time.
Yeah. Yes.
Very, like 100 years plus.
Yes.
Probably more.
Way more. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's a lot to do with it's the blood. It's being able to. You can just change your blood again, or you can take somebody else's blood and maintain youth, keep maintaining youth. But what they're desperately after is the Holy Grail, which is which is the Priory of Sion, protected for the longest time. You can get hold of that. That's eternal life. But the Holy Grail is really blood. It's blood from a certain stream.
I mean, the Ark of the Covenant.
That's a different thing. Yes.
Gold holds the souls.
Yes, and gold is soul energy. Yes.
Gold is soul energy.
Yes. The more gold you have, the more soul energy you've got.
Right.
That's why they're obsessed with it.
It's very interesting. Somebody I know recently had a lot of really yellow gold, really good pure gold.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, very powerful stuff.
Yeah. Okay, you haven't really mentioned. Okay, we mentioned. Is there anybody else you want to mention?
Yeah. I think it's important that I bring up Anya Briggs, because there's been a lot that she's said over the last few years, and she's on the surface she's a reasonably nice girl. I don't know her. I don't really know her at all. My initial connection with her was that in 2010, James Casbolt wrote a list. I think it was a list of about 10 people on it, and on the list what he wrote were a list of people that were involved in MK projects, this project, that project. So it's kind of like, okay, well,
any of these lists got any credence at all?
Okay, so I looked at the list, and first of all, I was like, okay, well, thank God, finally, there's somebody else here that perhaps I can relate to. So this is a good thing, because I felt isolated and alone at the time. So I looked through the list, nothing, I didn't contact anyone at first. Then the next day, I had a message from Anya Briggs, and she wrote underneath a picture of mine, and she said, "Wow, you look so familiar. It's wonderful to be in contact with you. I feel like I've been biblical with you." And
what does that mean?
Actually, at the time, I didn't know what that meant. But after asking, it means I feel like I've slept with you or I had sex with you. So I wrote back to Anya, and I said, "Oh, wow, I don't remember you," because I didn't remember her at all. But I said, "What do you remember about me?" And she corresponded with me a lot, and she sent me all these things about her remembering me in the Civil War, I think, and she sent me pictures.
What's the American Civil War?
Yes. Yeah.
There seems to be an awful lot of that going around.
She said and when she was telling me, I sort of felt, like that seemed familiar. So we wrote back and forth for a while, and
why would an Englishman be involved with the Civil War?
Because it has nothing to do with what country you're from, does it? Really, you continue on and on. It has nothing to do with that. So we corresponded back and forth, and I was just very happy to have someone to talk to who sort of was in a similar position to me. I'm a survivor from these projects, and so is she. You don't tell somebody not to talk to someone. I have an opinion. I have a voice that needs to be heard. I would never say don't talk to Anya or anybody else. Everybody needs to be heard. She is acting like a woman scorned, and I don't have a problem with her. I don't have a problem with her. I have a problem with her slanderously speaking about me. But in general, she's a human being. She's suffered, and we're all trying to come together to try and work this stuff out.
Finally, just this little bit of other people or anybody else. That you want to talk about, no pressure, just
Sarah,
totally.
Sarah, I spoke to Sarah Steiner a few times. A lot of her stories paralleled mine. And
she's English, and she's been in these programs. She mentions James Casbolt and lots of stuff and lots of different things.
I sort of remember her. Sarah Steiner is a lot more familiar to me.
She claims that James was actually one of the people who was, I can't quite get the term, but responsible for, I can't really get the term, but James is involved in here. Yeah.
And I sort of remember Sarah too, and we'd spoken before, and she said, it feels like I'm sort of like her and I are brother and sister.
So she wasn't one of the people in your original
Now,
group of children.
I don't know that for sure. But that is possible. I don't know that for sure. I don't remember Anya from any of this stuff. I don't ever remember her. Yeah, outside
I mean,
of
we're
that.
now talking adults in their 30s now.
What's that? Yeah.
I mean, this is, you know.
Yeah, I think Anya's always, mid-40s or something. But
Yeah.
Sarah Stang is...
I mean, the basis thing, I've been doing this for over 20 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, these programs have been going on a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
There are phases of it, yes, absolutely. Yeah, there was one particular one that cornered the group of children that were born in the 50s and 60s, and then the mid 70s seems to be when they sort of changed it a little bit. Mannequin came out in 1972,
the forerunner to Mannequin was Puppet Master.
Yes, Puppet Master. Yes.